Oh. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Satsang. Let's make some silence first. I cherish and honor silence as thy presence. I cherish and honor silence as your sacred whispers, the sacred place where your voice can be heard. O God, Guru, I stay there, waiting for you, just for you, only for you. So once again, good morning everyone. Welcome to Satsang. Just reminding you that we use WhatsApp as a means of communication. You can send your questions, they come directly to me. The number appears on the comments. So today we're going to talk about an important subject, which is doubts. Doubts on the spiritual path. Well, there's nothing more corrosive than doubts. So the doubting mechanism is a very important one, is a mechanism connected to survival. It is what gives us the ability to discern, to evaluate. But it is also a very complex mechanism and not very trustworthy, depending on a lot of factors. So all your reasoning depends on the values that you still uphold, not the values that you would like to uphold, the values that you really uphold. So into the spiritual quest, this makes a lot of difference. In worldly subjects, it doesn't make any difference, but in the spiritual realms, it does. So in the beginning, more or less, it's what you have to use. So it will be fine according to the level where you are. What does that mean? So it means is if it is possible for you, if you have a chance to touch something serious, you will get the necessary feedback enough to quench your thirst, your to clear your doubts for that moment. That's the only thing which is possible. So having that clarity for that moment is enough for that step, that serious step. Beyond that, then confusion starts. Because as you're moving on from where you stand, and it's a mixture of worldly values and spiritual values that represents your reality. So in the midst of that, you will get what you need to start. And if you don't get what you need, then how can you start? But that's complicated. That's very complicated. So I'll try to make it simple, but there are certain things that I will not be able to touch in this matter, in this subject. Because, well, your reality also makes clear if you're fit or unfit. And sometimes the capacity or the possibility of having that clarity depends on merit also. So, for example, you are coming close to a master, a guru. First of all, for it to start in the right way, there needs to be a calling, something which is pulling you into that direction. First of all, not something beyond the mind. That's the best. And once it is there, well, clearing a few points is important. And as you are cleared, then it begins the quest of trusting, surrender, faith. But sometimes there's not enough merit. And not seeing it doesn't mean that it isn't there. And seeing it, it doesn't mean that it is there also. So eventually, something will, in the case that there's merit, something must happen in some way. Those doubts have to be cleared. And as it is enough cleared, then there cannot be any room for any doubts anymore. Because doubt is an unstopping mechanism. So in the beginning, as you are questioning certain things, and this is important, it is a healthy mechanism. But then it continues. And the more the work starts reshaping you, transforming you, breaking the structures of your world, more doubts will come as a defense mechanism, as it was previously. It was a defense mechanism in some other regards. Then it is the same mechanism for the same purposes, but it doesn't let you move on. So people are a lot of afraid of stepping into problems, different kinds of problems for many reasons. I will not list them, not today, but for many reasons. And they put their faith into their doubts, into their questionings, into all of this, in hopes that they will not fall into some hellish situation. And that may work. That may even be possible. May even be possible. But at the same time, you will not go to heaven also, because that mechanism will not allow it. The doubt and the difficulties in giving steps, even being a healthy mechanism, which is important, and it plays that important role, yes, undeniably, but, 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 it comes from a position of self-importance. Self-importance in the sense that I am judging, evaluating where I'm going, to what am I going, to whatever, from a position of importance. It cannot be made in other way. Because if it was from a humble position and it had come this, it is followed, because the vision would be different. But very few come from this position. But eventually that vision has to change, or else you cannot move forward. So there are many, many, many challenges, many challenges. And as you get that clearing, that experience, which is undeniable in that moment, you need to make a decision and then stick to it no matter what, because doubt will continue to come, especially when the desires that were attached to that direction that you attached after it came, those desires will be frustrated. And as they are getting frustrated, doubts will increase, because they are from the mind. And like I've explained, the mind is there to protect itself. It's not there to help you find liberation. It's there to maintain bondage, illusion. So There are many seekers that have this natural behavior of guiding themselves, but by what they are feeling, what they are experiencing. Does it feel good? Does it feel bad? Is there good energy or bad energy and all those things? But understand, as it becomes serious, all of this is hackable. Perceptions are hackable, everything is hackable. And there's a lot of interest to maintain you in illusion. So that way of guiding yourself takes you to a certain point. It is very important. But when it becomes serious, then it will be a mechanism that will throw you out again. Because in the end, it's about devotion and surrender. And surrender is not possible just by being in your comfort zone. Oh, I trust that God will protect me. I'll be protected from whatever. For example. Well, that's not um, unconditional surrender. And it will be tested to become so. So what will happen? God will not protect you, will leave you, will let you experience a lot of things that will make you question that faith. And either you reach down in the depths of yourself and find real faith, or you'll fall down. Because unconditional surrender is a high elevated state, a blissful state. So attachments, desires, conditional interactions, it's a different state, and you cannot have one and maintain the other. And it's for that reason that things have to be tested, so that to give you an opportunity to move beyond your present state. And this is how it is seen. How pure is your longing? Because it's not a static evaluation. It's not. So, of course, there's no seeker which is pure already. There's a path to follow. And in that path, beliefs are questioned and broken, or not, or embraced. So you ask for it, there's the calling, and you're asking, and you'll be exposed to certain situations. And whatever you're doing with those situations, make the difference. Are you trusting, believing, embracing even more, and putting aside the garbage? Or are you doing otherwise? Are you protecting the character, trying to save it, and to save its dreams, its life, or whatever? What are you doing? And it is in this process, with these decisions, that purification happens or not. So I'm sure that none of you wants a fake guru. And I can assure you that there's no real guru that wants fake seekers of truth. And so each one has their own mechanisms. For example, a seeker of truth is the one that tries, at least tries, to see with his heart, not with these two eyes. when he gets a glimpse of something more divine, something which is connected to higher values, he holds on to that, despite the consequences, despite what happens, despite if the circumstances that come are with it are uh, sweet or bitter, he holds on because he is not looking into appearances. He is trusting something else. He is trying to trust something else. So if you're observing and you're trusting the human values, the worldly values, the judgments you'll be doing, it's like trying to bring the divine at your level. It doesn't work. And if by any chance you bring that to your level, what you've brought, it's not divine. So in the process of elevation, of transcendence, you rise to the divine. So you hold on with hope. And by holding on, your, what's the word? Inadequacies. I'm not sure if this word is like this, inadequacies. Something which is not adequate to that situation. They will have to be dealt. They will have to shift. So you rise yourself to the divine. You don't bring the divine to you. You will never be able to do that. Whatever you've brought to your level, it's from your level. And it's not that anymore. From the horizon, some see nothing, just some mosquitoes making confusion, problems, and messing around, and all of this. Others see, wow, what a nice landscape, sunset. Others see so much prana here, so much energy flowing from one thing to the other. Some others close their eyes or keep them open, but see void, emptiness, the presence of vibrant silence. Others see divine communion that transcends whatever the senses are seeing. Who's right? Who's wrong? It doesn't matter. But whatever you are seeing, it reflects your level of awareness and what you're looking for. And what you're looking for, you will see. So the one who has doubts, there's a part of him that wants to doubt because it threatens. And if this is stronger, well, you want to maintain your reality to preserve it. And you will see whatever you need to do this. Everything is justifiable for the better or for the worst. Everything. So the kind of assertions, the kind of mental processes, they are revealing what you really want to see, not objectively what is there. But for the quest for truth, if you're serious, once you get that which has given you that certainty, you need to embrace it and to stick to it, because that will change. Especially as your world is getting threatened. and it will get threatened, or else you're doing nothing. So in this stance, Bhakti Yoga has an advantage because you're always trying to increase your level of love and awareness. And you're focusing on that constantly. So it's more easy not to forget. But again, that depends on the level of the seeker, because many of this bhakti yoga is conditional to God's reciprocal love. And there are many, many stories that clearly back this idea of reciprocal love. And also, there are many, many stories where God tests this love to see how pure it is, or to give an opportunity for it to purify. And the more serious is your own proposal, is your motivation, the more intense you become because of it, more tests will come in your way. And also, lots of interest to keep you deluded. And it's not you personally that you're so important that these interests, these forces come and try to stop you. It's not personal. It's quite impersonal, actually, because each seeker of truth, serious one, has the potential to rise a spiritual flame, to become a spiritual flame that changes the vibration of the whole world. Rising it. And this is a threat to those presences that live in denser vibrations. So like the human being finds a small piece of land to build, and it goes and bulldozers it to make it a straight place to build a house. But there were ants and all kinds of insects there, and their houses get crashed in these different objectives. It wasn't personal with the ants. They weren't even considered. If they were big enough, they could be considered. But still, it wasn't personal. It was just standing in a way. And this is where the importance, self-importance, makes the difference. Because as long as you think that you're important, you have something that is yours, that you have a condition that you can lose, as long as you entertain these ideas, you will fall. Because you're not really seeing your real condition. And every situation is a win-win situation for a seeker of truth. He has nothing to lose except his pride. But that's a good loss. Anything else is fantasizing to possess. So all confirmations should be from the divine realm. But seekers don't usually wait that long because the biggest motivations are from greed. So they assess their minds and the logic. And usually, well, some kind of confusion will come out of that. So that's doubt. And remember these words. It may prevent you from going to hell, but it will also prevent you from going to heaven. And apart from heaven, everything is hell. Even if it is apparently similar to a hell-like situation, or if it is just nice, but it's not heaven, it's hell. Everything is hell. Mm. I will answer your question now. Dear Shima, wait. I used to say that the seeker of truth should be interested by worldly subjects. None of this world should interest him. Is this lack of interest a phase of indifference and even roughness? I translated this to Portuguese, should have translated to English. Okay. I feel indifference even for my own suffering. I feel no more empathy. Something has become hard inside me. What is that? Then I ask to improve the question. Several circumstances lead me to feel that. Staying too long sitting causes discomfort. Not always, but even that if the pain is coming, I say to myself to keep going, doesn't matter. And it goes away, it comes back. I see easier, especially in others, the mechanisms of suffering, and soon I see that we fabricate our own suffering from nothing. And immediately I cannot give credit anymore. When mechanisms, when the mechanisms are mine, I see their structures, how they are assembled. And I say to myself, so then what matters? Maybe these mechanisms will not undo themselves. We can understand their logic, and again, a new illusion. So what happens is I don't give importance to them anymore. By doing so, I have the impression that behind there is silence, and it's there that I look. Other circumstances at work, everybody tries to be recognized. Sometimes I see some game of seduction, and I say I cannot play in this game. I'm focused on the work, what needs to be done. and it be done with care? Is it more clear like that? Well, in your description of at least of these situations, I don't see anything becoming hard. What I see is clarity. So probably what you're identifying as something which is becoming more uh, hard and rough was an expression used. This is probably because of the old vision that you still remember, the vision where credit was given to these situations, to these constructions, to these happenings that brings this empathy in everybody towards that situation. But that's usually because the clarity is lacking. So I don't see anything hardening, at least not on your description. It can happen. Sometimes it happens because people maintain that need to defend themselves from suffering and they become harmed by the inside. They interpret philosophy and they try to establish themselves like that. But it's not the fruit of an inner transformation. And so there's something becomes more insensitive. So the real strength is not hard, it's soft. Soft to the point that it doesn't need to defend itself. Because sensitivity is not weakness, it is clear perception. What is weakness is when there's the need, when that sensitivity works in a way that uh, you cannot take it. It hurts you. But this is not because sensitivity is a weakness. It's because you have many weaknesses, many things to deal still, to understand, to grow. You have too much attachments, a wrong vision of the world, and so on. But sensitivity is by far much more strong than any force you may develop. And when you don't need to defend yourself from whatever, this is strength. And that's not because you're hard, it's because there's no fear. There's no emotional turmoil rising. So what you're describing is fruit of understanding. You see, people need suffering, their own suffering, to be able to complain about things and to undertake certain investments that they couldn't do otherwise if they didn't have the justification. But the way you describe it is clear. It is fabricated out of nothing to maintain these structures. And when you see this, there's no way you can go back to the same oh and complain again because you cannot give credit to it. This is not being insensitive. It's not. It's clarity. So either you didn't explain it completely, and there are certain examples which are important and missing, or I see nothing wrong with that. I will answer your question now. Hello, Sriman. I began a regular practice of meditation in 2019. I based myself in a book called Liber Abba from Aleister Crowley that describes the steps of Ashtanga Yoga. I practiced the steps from asana to pratyahara and got to a point where I could meditate 3 hours a day. I tried to increase to 4, but my body complained really hard. Then I fell. In a short span of time, I developed an intense rejection. I couldn't even bear 5 minutes of meditation. After that, I decided to wait for the rejection to go away. Now I'm trying again. I'm trying to practice dharana, the sixth limb of Ashtanga Yoga. Question is, can dharana be practiced without being in a clean state of mind of pratyahara? Pratyahara is a needed state to even try to do dharana, or it is just a marker that indicates that now we can go to the next step. Usually these things are practiced together, and they will develop not in stages, but they will grow simultaneously, more or less. I am the dreamer type of person, or at least I have that aspect much stronger than the worker one. And I have the notion that I'm not a mature seeker yet. These two facts contributed to my fall, yes. I hope an experience of dhyan can help me become a true seeker and bring an intense thirst to my heart. Well, it can happen, but I wouldn't hold my breath on it. I will explain why. So, it is normal for everyone to start with mixed motivations, worldly motivations with spiritual motivations. And as the practice increases, the levels of difficulties that you are experiencing. So you reach the 3 hours meditation and apparently it wasn't a problem. But to reach the 4, body started complaining. So all these difficulties that start arising, these ones or other kinds, they are there as barriers for you to transcend. And to transcend this, your motivations will have to improve. Because if there's an imbalance, worldly motivations versus spiritual motivations, you will need to increase your spiritual motivations. And for that, worldly motivations have to fall. So, and if they fall, the investment has to maintain. But what usually happens, especially with the dreamer type? They have these beautiful, beautiful divine motivations, but it is the worldly ones that they are holding on to. And they have this hope because they are very seductive in nature and they believe they can seduce the divine also. And playing all the cards that they are used to and this and that. And eventually it's like how do you call this? An elastic, a rubber that you pull, you stretch, you stretch, you stretch, and then as you let go, it goes to the other side. So your investments into this, it is forcing your way into the divine realm, but without transformation. You are holding to those worldly aspects, worldly desires, worldly expectations. And eventually, the strength of sanskars will pull you back again, creating that sense of rejection, of aversion to spiritual practices. And again, from this type of vision comes that hope that an experience, that the divine gives you something because you're special, because you're very special, and because, well, if you're giving your time to God, God must be there and help you to come out of it and blah, blah, blah. Don't get offended by my words. I'm trying to illustrate an attitude as clear as possible. And without that transformation, which is accessible to everyone, but this dreamer type, what is lacking is the working capability, that which will allow him to maintain his efforts despite the absence of fruits. Because 3 hours, 4 hours, it's not a, how do you say this? It's not a competition or something to establish a World Guinness record. It represents evolution of stillness, of silence. But this can be achieved by greed also. The difference is, from the dreamer type to the working type, which the working type can maintain this for greed. Of course, he is as greedy as the other one, but the difference is he is willing to work for that. So he will be able to maintain it longer. The dreamer type will not be able to maintain it as long as, especially because he has many mechanisms developed in the worldly world to get the attention he needs, he is after. So, but there's no circumstance better than the other. It just represents different challenges. And you have to understand the structures, the mechanics of your illusion to be able to transcend it. So in the case of the dreamer, he has to plant the seeds of working capability, of the self-sacrifice spirit. All this is needed for him to be able to maintain investments long enough into the dryness of the absence of fruits so that he can transform these worldly desires, expectations. And this attitude of waiting for that experience that will empower me, that will give me what I need to. I've heard this many times. And usually it doesn't matter how many times you repeat to someone who has this narrative. They are expecting this from the bottom of their being. It's almost like God has the responsibility to manifest in front of them and say, look, I'm here, I exist, you can come. But actually, what's even behind this is not only God has to manifest there, but it has to give you liberation, because it is your right. And sometimes this is accompanied by, I've done everything you asked of me. I am devoted to you. I'm the biggest devotee. Blah, 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 blah. But usually devotion is to their own interests, yet. And that, without changing this, just dryness will come. Just dryness. So, to make yourself ready, you need to understand that liberation is possible, of course. God is there, divine exists, and that's my goal. Dissolution or God communion. And I need to work into that direction. And whatever obstacles I find in my meditation, these are that which is showing me what I need to improve, what I need to develop, what it needs to be transformed. So if you're not getting resistance as at 3 hours, you're getting at 4 hours, you should aim to 4.5 hours, 5 hours. And deal with those difficulties. Continue. Persist. If you develop that aversion, you need to understand. So there's wrong motivations here. And this becomes even more intense when there is a real grasp of the spiritual commitment, even beyond normal seekers. But that commitment is also with the worldly structures. So it can be a very high seeker, very high devotee that feels a strong devotion and all of that to the divine, to God, to Guru, whatever. But at the same time, that devotion is still with the worldly structures and a very high sense of importance, of personal importance. like the prima donna complex that manifests either in plain sight or in very subtle ways. And it is this worldly aspect that needs to be taken care of. If the rest is there, is fine, just have to increase it. But this worldly aspect needs to be taken care of. And if you have developed a strong repulsion, you will still try to continue. And you will live that distaste, those impurities surfing, rising. It is your job to do. So you went to do your laundry and you found that your clothes are much, much, much dirtier than expected. You will take longer and you will do a much bigger effort. You don't throw the clothes away because no one will do it for you and it has to be done. So, and eventually that distaste for meditation will be transcended because the taste was conditioned to those worldly expectations. And they were frustrated somehow. Sometimes this is consciously, other times it's because of, yes, you're strong into your devotion, but at the same time you're holding on to worldly values. And this creates a tension that then it takes you to the opposite direction. No matter what happens, you must know that you always have to keep moving forward. There's no alternatives. Keep moving forward. And if you want an experience of dhyan, if you want an experience of some kind, a spiritual experience, make yourself worthy of that by working, by continuing, by persisting no matter what. And when it is constructive, it will come. But if you're just sitting there waiting for it to come, for you to get up, you can sit. Because if you have done all that work, if you reach that point, you got what you needed. So at this time, there's no need for, because if you stopped, well, that's because it's not that important for you. This is the outlook of that which is observing your efforts. Because if it was important for you, if you didn't have what was needed, you couldn't have reached so far. And if it is important for you, you will continue. Falling down, it's quite natural, expected for every seeker. And if you're not falling down, you'll be thrown down to see how and if you get up. And if you get up, how do you get up? In each falling, there's the potential of leaving things behind, weights behind, and getting up much lighter, much stronger. I see this every day. Sometimes I throw a big weight, the same weight, into different heads. One becomes more distance, the other one becomes more close. The same weight, the same intensity, the same bitterness sometimes, and it has different impacts. And that depends on the seeker, on the values upheld. Because, well, worldly values are ingrained, yes. Divine ones also, but less. But when you know what's right, it is by sticking to what's right that you change these values. And that depends only on the importance they have for you. And look, by greed you shall not pass. And if you're waiting, for this experience to come, you're waiting for that which will ignite your greed again. And you will just begin a new cycle of the same and will fall down in the same way. It is the thirst that makes the difference. Nobody is ready for the spiritual path. You get ready by giving the steps and maintaining them. And you'll be tested. So those who are looking for the safe place, the safe path, there is no such thing. And this is from a vision of weakness, dependency, greed, depends, but not the right position. And it has to change. And circumstance will come to give you an opportunity to change. So whatever is your present condition, don't wait for an experience to ignite your greed. And the less you want, the more you should work. When it is coming from those structures of greed, those worldly sanskars that are waving. And whatever it can begin from where you're standing is just, it's from greed again. So whatever is your condition, don't worry if pratyahara is not there, if dharana is not there. Try your level best with what you have, and if you work steadily, continuously, it will grow, it will improve. And spiritual, and there's even another factor from the dream type of seeker. They have experiences, the ones which are adequate to their nature, to what's possible for them, but they always want more. And they always want different kinds of experiences. Something that their mind can attest for sure that doesn't exist. There's nothing your mind cannot go against in the future. A matter of convenience always. And many times there's this speech that there's nothing for them and blah, 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 blah. And there is. But they want more and more and more, and it's never enough. Sometimes it's greed, sometimes it's childish behavior, immaturity, or a mixture of all. But again, it doesn't matter. It is a different challenge. A different challenge. And every circumstance, every seeker has the potential for liberation, needs to work to understand the mechanics of its own illusion. And of course, he needs guidance, but not only guidance, but then to surrender to that guidance, to devote to that guidance. Or else, just same old, same old. So my advice is, start working now with what you have, understanding fully the characteristics and motivations that are there, and the motivations that should be there. And the parts of you that dislike meditation and all of that, that's what working against. And by persisting, you will burn all these worldly sanskars. And then probably, you'll be worthy of that blessing. Okay. So for today, that's it. Next satsang will be Saturday, 9:30 in the morning, Brazilian time, UTC -3. And for those who have interest in working hard, those silent meditation retreats with Kriya meditation, 10 days, 10 hours a day. Next one will be 1 to 12 of August. And in the structure that's assembled, there's this first format for the beginners. And as they went through this process, at least completely, fully, for 5 times, they can move to another one, which is a different group of meditators that already passed these beginning stages and they are working more deeply. So for those who seriously want to work, there's always, always possibilities. Okay, but see you Saturday.